Hello and welcome to part 14 of the Johnny Blender 4000 series. This is David Ward, and when last I left you, we had just finished setting up the materials and everything for our little robot guy here. But there's one more material I would like to do before we call that done, and that's to give the rods and everything that's just plain metal like that, like the rods and his upper arms and thighs, and then in the pistons, give them a nice chromy, stainless steel type of material. So over here in our materials, we're going to go ahead and create a fourth one here and say new, and we'll just go ahead and call this one steel. Okay, and tell you what, let me go ahead and turn my screencast keys on, even though we're not really modeling or anything right now. But anyways, under the settings for the steel material right here, say instead of diffuse, we're going to go glossy. And you can see that looks okay as is, but I would like to make it a little darker there. So we'll slide that down to more of a mid-gray, and then we'll add some roughness to it. Maybe, accidentally hit 0.1, but I think that'll work. 0.1 roughness, maybe a little lighter. Let's go a little bit lighter so it's more chromish looking than anything else. Okay, so now what I would like to make this material are, like I said, we'll go into edit mode and tell you what, let's go ahead and collapse that window right there. There we go. And we'll select one vertex from each one of these rods, and then also on the pistons there. There we go. Go to Control L, so we select all that, and also the little antennas of the ears. So we'll select those, not the actual dome that they're connected to, but the actual antennas themselves. So go ahead and assign that steel material to that. And you know what? While we're in here, I'd like to make the dome things on his ears, the bases for the antennas. Let's go ahead and make those that rubbery material too. So we'll go ahead and assign that. Okay, so now if we go to our camera view and take a peek at the rendered viewport, there we go. It looks a little bit better with the chrome arms and legs there. So, okay, so let's go ahead and save this. And now, one thing I looked at while in between the takes of the videos. Let's go ahead and back to solid view so it's not so buggy, it's laggy. Well, let's see. Before I get into that, let's set up our scene a little bit better so we get some better, a better render on there. And I'm going to grab the light box that we made, go ahead and scale it up a little bit so it provides more light. And I'm going to go to my top view and Shift D, duplicate that over, rotate it around so we have this light's going to be the fill light coming in and brightening everything up, and then this light over here will make that a little bit smaller, and that'll kind of just, fill in a key light. Or let's see, this is the key light, and this is the fill light. And normally in a 3-point lighting setup, we would go ahead and put one behind them as well, but I'm just going to use the front two, and then let the reflection of the background act as the background light. So now if we go to our view and take a look at the rendered, you can see it looks a little bit better with the light on the other side. It looks not quite as dark. So as soon as that clears up, you can see it looks quite a bit better. And also it'll look a lot better once the subsurface turned on. A lot of these angles, especially like around the chin and everything, will look a lot better. So, okay, so that's it on the materials. Go ahead and pop back into solid mode. There we go. And go ahead and say once again. Now, as I said earlier, I noticed when I was kind of just playing around with them that there was a few things we needed to adjust on the rig to make things work a little better. So, tell you what, let's go ahead and hide the layer that has the background and everything, and let's zoom in here. Now, the main thing are the thumbs. Remember that they should be rotating on the x-axis, and we have this bone. Actually, a couple of things, a few things we need to do. But let's do this first. We'll tab into edit mode and go to our display, our armature settings there. And let's turn on the axes so you can see which axis each one is rotating. Now, the fingers, I'm wanting them to rotate only along their x-axis. So if we zoom in here, you can see that the x-axis here on each finger is along the horizontal. So if I bend it, or rotate it along the x-axis, it's going to bend like so. So that's good and well on the index finger and the combination fingers over there, but on the thumb, it kind of got rotated around the wrong way. So let's do this one at a time. Just Control R, and that will rotate that bone until it matches up. So actually, if we undo that and just hit Control R and hit 90, we just hit Enter, it'll rotate it perfectly 1/4 of the way around, 90 degrees, 1/4 of 360. So we want the z-axis pointing down, and so we need to do that on the thumb tip as well. So Control R, and this one needs to go 180 degrees because it was flipped totally the wrong way. So there we go, and let's make sure we have it correct over here on this hand. It should be if I turn my toolbox on and take a look. Where's it at? Oh, I need to go into edit mode. X-axis mirror. Yes, it should be good now. Since that X-axis mirror was turned on, it should have turned these accordingly when we turn the other ones. So let's take a look. Z down, X, yes. So there we go. Okay, now, one thing that'll make this a little easier to animate, we can go ahead and turn our axes back off, is when we rotate the top of the finger, it'd be handy if it rotates the tip as well, just a little bit, so it kind of curls it up. Now, real quick, one thing to do so we can kind of see a visualization as we're doing it is when I was messing with the normal maps in a few sections ago, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but I couldn't get it to work, so I was turning everything off, turning everything on just to figure out why it wasn't working, and remember it turned out it was because those vertices were hidden. But anyways, and having done so, I turned off the armature, so let's go ahead and turn that back on, so when we're messing with the rig here, we can actually see it in action. So, okay. As I said, one thing that would be handy is if when we rotate the top of the finger, the tip of it rotates as well, so it's kind of a natural curve. So, let's do this. We're going to add, let's see, Shift Select. We have the base of the finger selected already. Shift Select the tip. We're going to hit Control Shift C, and we're going to go Copy Rotation. Now we need to change some of the settings on that. So we don't want to copy the Y and Z, because if we spread the fingers apart, we don't want that tip rotating out. You know, if we had it like so, if we rotated, well, maybe it was a Y. Well, one thing we need to do is change this to local space. And there we go, if we rotate there. So we don't want that. So let's turn off the Y and Z. And so the only way it's going to copy the rotation is if it's rotating on the X, like so, as you can see. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear that out. And one easy, quick way to get this copied to all of them without having to say local space, not Y, not Z, so on and so forth. Actually, we need to turn on offset also, by the way, so you can rotate it by itself if you need to. So we got this one constraint set up exactly the way we need it to. We want that on all of the fingertips, including the thumbs. So what we can do is just select each one of these tips, and then select the one we have created last. Hold down Shift, remember, and select all those. And now we're going to hit the space bar and do Copy Constraints to Selected Bones, and just select that one there, and it copies that constraint to all of those tips that we had selected. Now the only thing we have to do now is change the bone that they're targeting. Otherwise, when we move this one, it's going to rotate all of them. So we need to make sure that each one of these tips is controlled only by its corresponding base. So this one, instead of F middle and index, or F middle.01.L, it needs to be F index. Go ahead and delete those guys, and you can just select that. Same thing on the thumb, or actually just the tip there. It needs to go thumb.01.L. There we go. And then over here, this one, the only thing we need to change on here is the R, because it's the same the mirror version of the finger. And then here, findex.01.R. Remember, all of them, these over here need to be R because they're on the right side. and then finally the thumb.01.r. There we go. Okay, so now our hands can be a little more easily posed with a more relaxed, natural pose, like so. Okay, so let's grab all these guys and clear out that. Oops, Alt-G. Select Alt-G, Alt-R. That's what I need, Alt-R. Okay, so one thing further that we need to do, actually, before we get down there, remember I was talking about when we first started rigging how I had some limits set up on the forearms so they didn't cross through where they shouldn't. So we need to set a limit on this forearm so it can only bend this far so that our piston doesn't intersect, maybe a little bit farther, and so that the rod on the upper arm does not go through the area that it has clearance for. So let's go ahead and go to our top view, clear out that rotation, and we need to add a bone constraint to that, and we're going to say limit rotation right there. And we need to set the space here to be local space, and go ahead and limit Y and Z 0 to 0, so we can't twist it or rotate it up and down. We only want to rotate it on its x-axis. So we want to limit that though to let's see, turn it off so we can get an idea. Keep an eye down here so that when we rotate it we can get an idea of how many degrees that we're going. So let's clear that out. Remember, it was right there. So if we rotate back, we can see we can go back just about as far as about -10 before the cylinder on the piston starts going through the tip of the rod, and also where the elbow would go through the top of the rod. So our minimum should be -10, and you can, even though it's grayed out, you can still type the number in there. But now let's go and make sure we clear all that out, and now let's rotate this way to see how far we can go before we start worrying about intersections. So about right there, and that's about 58.95. I'll estimate up, give it an even 60. So there we go. So now let's clear that out. And now, anytime, since we have our auto IK turned on, if we move our hand down, even if we go way through there, and you can see that the intersections are obvious, as soon as you click and let go of the mouse, boom, that limit on that forearm takes effect and pops it back. Excuse me, pops it back to where it's not intersecting. So then you can rotate the hand back around however you want. So anyways, so let's do the same thing on the other forearm. Actually, just select that, shift select that, and do the same thing that we did on the fingertips. Copy constraints to selected bones. Boom, there we go. So now, I believe we might need to swap those numbers to be the opposite. No? Okay. I thought maybe since it was on the opposite side that we'd need to change that. But looks like it's all good. Like and pops it back into place. So you can even go back a little further and boom, pop back into place. So that's quite handy so we don't accidentally intersect. Now that works nice and well on the arms because they're going to be controlled with the auto inverse kinematics, but on the legs, well, it works a little different than the hands and forearms because it's set up on the inverse kinematics chain so that when we like crouch down and everything, the feet stay glued to the floor. So if we move our foot around and stuff, nothing happens. But you can see if we drag it out like that, well, the pistons on the knees, they just start acting silly. So let's clear that out. And just real quick, just to make things a little easier to work with, let's tab into edit mode. Let's go to our side view, and let's drag this actual foot controller bone to where it's pretty well straightened up instead of at an angle. And then we'll Alt Control S and scale that up so we can say, oh, well, that's the controller for each foot, maybe a little bit smaller so they're not glued together there. And then here, this is only going to rotate you know, the pivot on the toe. So let's make that a little less, you know, in your face, and maybe scale it on the x-axis. Alt Control S and then hit X, and you can scale and make it a little fatter and flatter. So there we go. All right, now, as I was saying, it would be handy for the knee to kind of follow the rotation of the foot so that the pistons on the shin don't get out of whack when we get, like, say, right there or so. So the way we can do that is go ahead and clear out that location. And we'll tab back in edit mode, put our 3D cursor right there on that knee joint, say Shift S, cursor to selected, okay? And now we're going to go Shift A, add a new bone, and open up our Properties tab. And right now it's the only bone that's not named, so it's just named bone. So let's name that knee target.L, okay? Then I'm going to grab the top of it and drag it down to where it's parallel with the base. There we go. And we'll drag that whole bone, move that out on a y-axis, just about to say right, maybe right there. And we'll go ahead and connect it to the foot controller bone. So Shift select that, Control P, make sure you select Keep Offset. And then we'll tab out, and now's where the magic happens. I don't know if you call it magic, but select the shin bone, and there's a thing called pole target, and that basically tells the shin bone which direction to face no matter what. So we're going to have it face this knee target. So the target's going to point at that. So anywhere this target is, the knee will point in that direction. So I'll show you how it works as soon as we get it set up. So all we got to do is the pole target has to point to the rig. So let's just hover over this window, Control C, and then come over here, Control V, and then we'll say knee target right there, .L. There we go. And you can see it flipped it around, and that's not good. We don't want that. So we need to say the angle needs to change. And if we rotate negative, you can see it's starting to straighten up. So just type in even negative 90 degrees on there. So now, anywhere we move this knee target, the leg will follow. Even when we bend the leg and rotate the foot around, you can see that it follows along. And the piston stays pretty well as it should. It's kind of intersecting a little bit there, but I believe that's because our knee target is not lined up exactly as it should be. As you can see, there's a slight swivel on the leg, so let's move that just a little bit over there. And I think that will probably work for the most part. In any case, it works a lot better than it did. And you can see that the piston looks kind of cool working like that. Okay, so now let's set the other side up the same way. Go into edit mode, select our knee bone into edit mode, and let's put our 3D cursor right in the middle as usual. And we're going to Shift D, okay, hit period, so we're scaling around that, SX -1, so it's mirrored exactly, and then armature flip names, and we need to go ahead and make the parent the foot bone. So there we go. So now if we rotate that around, the knee controller is moving alongside. Now we just need to set up the IK target like we did on the left side. So Control C, Control V, and then knee target .R this time, and then -90 again. So there we go. So go ahead and save this, and take it a second. And there we go. Okay, so now when we move the legs around, or even when he squats down, oops, grab the bone instead of the model, and then we say we rotate the leg a little bit, that knee will follow along a lot more prettily. So there we go. So now we can get some nice animated poses without worrying too much about the knees. And if we do get some intersections in here, like right here, for example, slight little bit, we can grab that thigh bone and, well, let's see, turn off. Okay, I thought we could rotate it a little bit, but I guess since the knee target is there, we can't. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. But that's what we can do, is grab the knee target and adjust it as we need to. Maybe about like that. And another thing we can do, obviously, is just tab into edit mode on our model. And let's make sure that the X mirror is turned on. And we can grab the... Oh, I see. The actual clearance thing is in the back. So, okay. Well, that's... okay, I thought it was the left and right problem that was making it go through the leg, but it's not. It's actually just bending it too far. So, we can only bend down to... Let's turn off Auto IK for now. There we go. Okay, so you can only bend down to about right there before the knees start going through the pistons. So he can't have a full 90-degree angle leg bend. So just keep that in mind when you're animating. Control comma, so we're around that. So if you wanted to, you could go into edit mode and adjust the hinges and everything even further out so he has more clearance for bending and everything. But anyways, we got our rig pretty well set now, I think. All a little easier to animate than it was before. So one thing to make things even easier to animate so that we don't have all these extra bones in our way is we can go ahead and put some of these on another bone layer so they're not right there in our face all the time. So we can do that with the hinges, or not the hinges, but the pistons, and then the knee. I guess we can leave the knee targets out for now. But let's do it on these pistons up here, and these over here, and then probably the waist or the midsection, the spine, and then the neck. We won't really need to animate those, individually. And then also the thigh bones can go. And then the heel bones right there. And we'll go ahead and just hit M and just put them on their own layer, like right there. Okay, so now they'll still work, but they're not in our way. So we can actually see the hinges at work as we rotate things along. So anyways, go ahead and clear that out. Now, okay, well, I'm going to call it done on part 14. Originally, I was not going to do any animation, but I think I might do one or two sections on just some exaggerated animation with this little guy. So we'll get into that in part 15. So that's going to be it for this section. This is part 14. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in part 15. Go ahead and save that. Okay.